What's groovy, y'all? I'm Danye.
And I'm Marcia, and this is the
Hey Sissy podcast. Hey Sissy, go Sissy. Hey Sissy, go Sissy. Hey Sissy,
peace to the haters.
go
Bye,
Sissy.
see you later.
Hey,
You my
Sissy,
road dog,
go
sis,
Sissy.
we are greater.
Hey, Sissy,
Holding it down, and
go
you know we stay
Sissy.
true.
Hey,
Fam
Sissy,
to the end
go
is how we
Sissy.
do.
Hey,
Fam to the
Sissy,
end
go
is how we
Sissy.
do.
Hey,
Fam to the
Sissy,
end
go
is how we
Sissy.
do.
Hey Sissy, go Sissy. Hey Sissy, go Sissy. Go, 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 go.
We the bomb, let's go, sissy.
Hey.
We the bomb, let's go, sissy.
Hey.
We the bomb, let's go, sissy.
Hey.
All right, how y'all doing? Welcome back to the podcast. And today we have a requested episode. I didn't tell you that.
Okay.
So my friend started talking to her little sister about sex, and she legit was like, "Can y'all just record an episode and I just show it to her?" So here we go. So today we're talking about
Sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's go to the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about sex. Yes. We're getting into it.
Yeah.
So a couple of episodes back, we talked about relationships and dating. So we kind of touched on sex in regards to dating. But today we're going to specifically talk about sex. Disclaimer. This is going to be focused on heterosexual relationships. Don't have no experience in the other actuals that people like to explore. So this is just the heteros for today. Sorry. This is not the podcast if you're any other actual.
Any other actual.
All right. So, Danye, what is sex? Or what counts as sex?
Anything that is intimate between two people. I mean, actual physical intercourse is. This is how I'm explaining to my kids. When you put the PP in the VV, you have wee-hee and you make nee-nee. You know what I'm saying?
So in layman terms,
Yes.
when you put the penis
Uh-huh.
in the vagina, that is called penetration.
Yes.
Which is the traditional sexual intercourse. There's also oral sex, which is with a man and a woman.
Giving head.
You put your mouth on somebody's penis, or they put their mouth on your
Vagina?
clitoral vaginal area.
Just say the words. Don't be scary.
That is the words. Clitoral and vaginal.
Oh.
Those are the actual words. You don't hear somebody giving head.
I mean, that's what they call it, is giving someone head.
Yeah, it's fellatio is when you suck someone's penis, and then cunnilingus is when you give a lady oral sex by licking around in her vaginal regions.
And then there's anal sex.
And then there's anal sex, where
Yes.
penis goes into
The
your
butt.
anus.
Yeah.
Never tried that one. That one's not on my list of things to try.
No,
But anyway, that's what those essentially are sex. Some people try to say that the only sex that counts is penis and vagina, and
But
that is not true.
That's not true.
So if you are trying to be a virgin, you need to stick with the no sex. Anything that ends with sex is not in your purview.
Yes.
All right, so the next question is, what's the difference between sex and foreplay? Do you know?
Yeah.
What would be your definition?
My definition, foreplay is everything that actually leads up to the actual intercourse. The kissing, the touching, the teasing, maybe any toys or extra props or anything that leads up to the actual intercourse. And sex is, the actual penetration that occurs.
Yes.
I actually think that oral sex is a form of foreplay too.
It is.
So yeah,
in a way, it is. Yes.
Because it gets you in the mood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To actually go into intercourse. So
That is true. That is true. Some people use it as foreplay. Some people use it as the whole act. Some aspects of foreplay, like she said, is like kissing, hugging, on the neck and things like that. It's anything that kind of basically just gets you aroused. Yes.
Your turn-ons.
Your turn-on.
Yeah.
Yes. So, in the same form of sex and foreplay, there's masturbation. Do you know what that is?
Masturbation is when you self-please yourself. Self-please yourself. Self-pleasing act of intimacy, I guess you can say.
Yeah, self-pleasing act of intimacy. Yes. So that's whatever you want to do. That's between you and you.
You and you. A lot of people tend to, watch porn when they masturbate.
Yeah. Some people do that. Some people use their memories.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do it on their own. Some people decide to bring in toys.
Some people use pictures or magazines.
Yeah, basically, you've seen it in movies and TV shows. Yeah. You ain't new to that. So is it considered a form of sex?
I want to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not to compare us to animals, but aren't we like an animal? We're like mammals.
We're supposed to be smarter.
Yeah. So I mean, like some animals, they procreate with themselves. They call asexual.
Yeah, that's true.
Where they can reproduce with themselves. So I guess in a sense of what
you saying that you compare asexual animals to masturbation?
I am. I mean, they find a way to please themselves to the point where they produce.
I don't know if it's the same as pleasing though.
I mean, they gotta please themselves to get it there somehow.
Maybe.
I don't know what animals do, but I guess that's not a good example. But masturbation is a form of sex because there's like with women, there's a form of penetration. So, whether it's with your fingers or with a toy.
Yeah.
So, it's technically oral sex. I feel like it's a little different for guys because they're usually the penetrators. So,
what do you mean? What technically oral sex? What?
I mean, not oral sex. I mean, gosh, please.
I was like, what? I got real confused.
Not oral sex. I mean, it's a type of
sexual
sex.
Intercourse.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still think it's sex for men, even though they're not penetrating anything. Mm-hmm. Actually, they could.
They're just using their hands to simulate sex.
Yeah, pretty much. So, it's a form of sex.
It's a form of sex. Okay. So then, should you wait until marriage to have sex? Why or why
not? This may come off wrong as a Christian, but I'm gonna say yes and no.
What? You can't say both.
I can't say both. Okay, then I'm gonna lean more towards yes.
Why yes?
Yes, because I'm not sure if people know this, but a lot of times we learn in church and even outside of church that when you have sex, it's a soul tie.
Mm-hmm.
That you're giving a piece of yourself to that person, which I feel like is very important. When you give yourself to a person in such a intimate and physical, passionate way, you're kind of really open yourself up to vulnerability and emotions. So you have to be ready to open up that part of yourself. So if you're not ready to open up that part of yourself, and if you're not ready for the possible consequences or backlash that comes with it, you should definitely wait. Like, for instance, a lot of times people have sex and they get pregnant and they're having to have abortions or take pills and stuff. And it's like, if, like they say, if you're adult enough to engage in the activity, you should be mature enough and adult enough to, take care of the kid. So I think having sex in marriage pretty much says that you are prepared for everything that comes with sex. Yep. You're prepared for the babies. You're prepared for, the intimacy, the vulnerability, the emotions. I think that's very important.
So those are all very good answers. Other things, like you said, sex does create soul ties. So for women, at least, when you allow someone to penetrate you, that's a level of trust that you should not allow a lot of people to do. And also, a lot of people use sex as a manipulation tool.
Yeah.
So people know that it creates soul ties, and sex can cloud your judgment. We've all seen or heard stories about people talking about how they can't leave a man or a woman because the sex is too good.
Right.
Even though that person is mistreating them and using them and abusing them, but because of the sexual aspect of the relationship, which is just one aspect, they stay in terrible relationships because of it, because that person is manipulating them, and they're not strong enough to realize that the sex should not overshadow the other bad qualities.
I think it's another reason why it's important to save yourself from marriage, is one, because it can complicate things. if you start feeling that person more than they're feeling you, then you can, like you said, kind of maybe become obsessive. You can kind of, that person can manipulate you and affect your emotional well-being. I think another reason why it's important to wait is because of comparison. You don't want to have sex with, even if it's 1 or 2 people or 3 people or however many people, and you don't want to have that comparison when you get married. You're like, oh, he didn't do it the way he used to do it, or she didn't do it the way she used to do it. So then you're going to think there's something wrong with that person, or there's a lack of in that person. You may find yourself kind of wanting to step out. So I think that's another important thing to save yourself, so you're not comparing.
And it can also create an insecurity, because if you know your person has been with other people, then you will always be comparing yourself or trying to be like, oh, I hope I did this better than her or him or whoever the case may be. So yeah. Leave it there. I think another thing, so we both agree that you should wait to have sex until you're married. But if you do decide to do it outside of marriage, you should definitely make an informed decision. You should not do it recklessly. Obviously, you shouldn't just be out here having one-night stands. Society makes one-night stands look like a fun thing, but I highly doubt it's fun for everyone. It's very risky. Obviously, you don't know who you sleeping with, what kind of STDs or other things they have, and if you don't know, STD is a sexually transmitted disease. And so, like, essentially, you got to remember that sex at its core is just designed to make babies. That's the basis of sex. We as humans find pleasure from sex because we have a lot of pleasurable zones throughout our bodies. That's why when someone kisses you a certain way or in a certain place, you get turned on, because that's the whole purpose. Like, being turned on helps with the impregnation process. But with that being said, you gotta be careful. Because sex leads to babies, and if you have sex with people you don't know very well, you could get a disease. You could get manipulated mentally and emotionally, and then it can also lead to abuse and because some people are controlling and they will use sex to control you as well. So you have to be careful who you have sex with if you decide not to wait to marriage. You gotta be real diligent about the partner you pick. And essentially, if you had to do it, just pick someone you wouldn't mind having kids with. Because if you're going to have sex, the risk is babies. Whether you use protection or not, no birth control is 100%. So there's always the risk that you could get pregnant for women, because we are women, so we're speaking of women. And for men, there's always the risk that you could get someone pregnant. So you just got to be careful. Choose your sexual partner wisely.
And you kind of went into the next questions, honestly.
What are the risks of having sex outside of marriage? There you go. Any others?
Any other risk besides getting pregnant and STDs, emotional trauma are really the biggest risk. I think in society we have kind of like made sex like this thing that we have to have. I think a lot of things are sexualized, and especially for kids who are teenagers and stuff, they feel like, a lot of times we feel like sex is just something we just need to get out the way. And I feel like
that's true. Oh, I don't want to be a virgin when I'm 18 and all. It's not like a jail sentence. You can serve the full term and it'll be fine.
You are, because I think sex is just a momentary thing. You know, especially when it's not somebody that you love or that you think you love, it can fall off. You know, you satisfied for however the duration of that sex, and then after that, you just like, well, okay.
And essentially, sex is kind of like a drug, in that people are constantly chasing those feelings they had in those like 5 to 15 minutes of pleasure, because it's pleasurable if you're doing it with a person who prioritizes your pleasure. Sometimes people just be in it for themselves, and it's not pleasurable for you at all. But if you with someone that makes it pleasurable for both of you, then some people tend to chase that high. It's just like doing drugs. You're gonna always want to get that feeling back, which is another reason to be careful.
I think that what you said was another risk. You have to watch out for the person who seems to only want to please themselves.
Yes.
If you've had sex with somebody multiple times and you find yourself not reaching your peak or your climax, and it's really just that person, and you kind of just there, you got to be careful of that, because both partners should be satisfied in that intimate moment. I think that's another reason why people should wait till marriage, because when you love someone and you want to both please each other to the utmost, it's just something about it that will make it just so much better. You know what I'm saying? Another thing is, after the sex has occurred, you still feel that love, you still feel that high, and you have it every time with that person.
And there's no shame or regret or wrapped up in it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're married, you get to be free with that person sexually. Mm-hmm. But when you're having sex outside of marriage, you are worried about the risk of getting pregnant or STDs, and you're also worried about whether that person feels the same about you as you do about them. And but back on what you said about teenagers, it's funny because a lot of people always talk about when they were a teenager, they lied about having sex. Teenagers, don't believe your friends. Some of them are not having sex. They're lying to you, or they're saying stuff they think that you want to hear. And really, just do you, boo. You don't have to try to prove yourself to anyone. If you don't want to have sex, don't have sex. It's your choice, your prerogative.
Yeah, because when I was in high school and even in college, when I used to talk to some people and everything, you know, the conversation of sex would come up and stuff, and a lot of them said with their first time wasn't even that good, and some of them even said man, if I could wait, if I could have my first time back, I would. Because you know, you have a lot of times we create this ideal in our head about what our first time will be like, or
it's fantasy
of what sex is going to be like, and when it's not that, we find ourselves in a place of emotional trauma, or a place of wow, that was dumb, I regret this. So be careful, because you don't want to regret it. And another thing is, with women, we got this idea of being with a man with this massive penis, this huge penis. And
I didn't know you was going here.
And having, my back broken and all of this it's a whole bunch of different stuff that people
blown out and
require from sex. And it's just
So we're going to go into anatomy here for a little bit, because if the man's penis is too large, it can rupture your cervix if they don't know what they're doing, or they just pounding in there like they're trying to get a hammer into a piece of wood. It can rupture your cervix or hit your bladder or cause pain. So the goal is not to get a giant penis. The goal is to get someone who will pleasure you right.
Yes.
So be careful.
Our anatomy is really only designed to, take a male genitalia that's 4 to 5 inches. So anything over that is already over average. Extra. So I think that society has kind of made this, thing where the man has to have this massive, genitalia in order to pleasure a woman, which is not always true.
No, it's not. And it kind of sucks for guys too, because it's if you don't have what people keep saying they want, it makes you feel insecure. And you don't want to be insecure about what you have. And some women got some deep cervix. So good for you. Kudos to you, girl. You can do all that. But some women can't. And so you just have to know your body and know what's best for you.
And I want to stop another idea that I used to hear in school all the time about women. Oh, she loose. Her walls is loose. She just letting them all in and through her. First of all, let me let y'all know that y'all want y'all women tight. No, you don't. When a woman is tight, that means she's not turned on. That means that she's not really into it. So if she's tight, the tighter she is, the better that is. That means you are not doing your job as the man.
That's where foreplay comes in.
Yes, you want your woman to be loose. You ain't trying to force your penis into her, because that's going to hurt. And then 2, that ain't no fun. So when she's loose, that means she's turned on. She's really into it. When she's tight, that means she's not. So this idea that, I want my girl tight. No, you don't. Because you're doing something wrong. You want your girl loose and able to, you feel me?
Yeah.
That's something I learned, medically, if she's not loose, then there's something wrong.
There's also that, along with that, is the lubrication. So there's women can naturally become lubricated.
Yeah.
And so if Some women can't, so they need the excess lubrication,
Mhm.
but then some women can. And if you know that your partner can and they're not lubricated in that moment, then something's off, and it's not going to be enjoyable for either of you.
Right. That makes sense.
Anything else on that? I think we talked that out pretty thoroughly. All right, so
Okay.
yeah, we did that one too. Oh, okay. Well, here we could go. We could go more into this.
Okay.
If you decide to have sex before marriage, what are some things you should consider when choosing a partner? Obviously, you want to choose a partner that is responsible as a human being.
Yes.
Someone that is a good quality person. And if you don't know what a characteristics go along with a good quality person, obviously they are not vicious or malicious or mean to people for no reason. Someone who is generally caring, someone who clearly shows they care for you, who believes in the Lord, amen. Someone who has a good relationship with their family, because basically you want someone who would make a good, not just a good sex partner, but a good like long-term partner, possible husband. Even if you want to try out the goods before you buy the cow, you still want to make sure that the cow is worth buying.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
So basically someone, not just physical characteristic of a person, more character, internal character, quality person. Yeah. So basically if you have a big sister, pick a mate that your big sister would like for you, essentially.
Yeah.
Because, parents are biased. But sisters will look out for your best interests.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we do get caught up in the physical aspect of a person, like, oh man, she got this and that, or oh man, he got this and that. And they think that's what makes the person their physical appearance, and that's what they want. Immediately they resort to a physical aspect and sex with that person. But then after the sex, something kind of happens, and you're just like, well, why did I just do that? Or this person is treating me like this. Why are they treating me like that? I think if you do want to have sex with a person, I think it's important to constantly get to know that person and be very cautious, like you said earlier, of one-night stands, because you don't know what's going to happen. It may be good for that moment, but the after effect is the biggest thing. I think a lot of times when it comes to sex, we're so caught up in the moment that we really don't pay attention to what we're going to feel or think or what it's going to be like after the sex is over with. You know what I'm saying? So,
because sex is fun. We ain't gonna lie, it's fun. But you have to make sure that you're having that good fun with someone you trust, someone you can depend on, someone that if you got in the sore spot, if you was on the side of the road, that you could call them and they would come pick you up, and they wouldn't be like, oh man, that's messed up. I hope you be all right. You don't want to have sex with that type of person. You want to be comfortable enough with that person, so why not pick someone you trust and you can depend on?
And I think another thing, the reason why to wait till marriage, sometimes we can get caught up in, oh, this person's not good at sex, or that or the third, or this person's bad, or I think it's important to wait till marriage because I feel like y'all can learn together. If there's a particular thing that the person may not be the best at, you can work with them, you can communicate with them, you can talk through in sex. You know what I'm saying? When you have sex with somebody just like miscellaneously, just for fun,
you gotta get what they give you.
You can't be like, oh man. I mean, sometimes people have consistent sex partners, but for the ones that aren't consistent, you typically don't tell those people what they did wrong. You kind of just,
because you trying to spare their feelings.
Yeah, you kind of just like, But if it's somebody that you love, you're gonna really tell them like, hey, I would prefer this. Hey, I don't really like that. Hey, can we try this?
That's because you trust them enough to tell them. So yeah,
I think it's another thing good in marriage is that like you can try different things out.
Oh yeah,
you can't like. If you want to like do some BDSM, you can't just be with different sex partners and say, hey, I want to be tied up and whipped, But I mean, with your husband or your wife, you can like maybe talk about it, think about it, consider it. Like, hey, can we try this out or something?
Yeah, because there's a level of vulnerability to sex that you don't always get with someone outside of a partnership or relationship.
Yeah,
because like long-term relationships that you're not married, of course, but you can still have that type of relationship where you're vulnerable enough with them to share your fantasies and do a little extra things. Tell somebody if you like your feet licked or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
you can't always do that with like someone you kind of meet on a shallow basis.
Very true.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna take it back a little bit and say, so what's the difference between abstinence and celibacy? Do you know?
Yes.
Tell us, Danye.
Abstinence is when you refrain from having sex, like period. Like
You've
never had sex.
Mm-hmm.
Celibacy is where you've had sex, but I guess you could say re-virginize. You make that commitment to.
I don't know if I would say it like that.
Okay, you make that commitment to, abstain from having sex until marriage. So if you've had sex before, okay, go ahead.
Or I was gonna say, or for whatever reason, some people realize that. Some people may realize that they did allow sex to control them a little bit, or that they may have made some decisions they weren't quite pleased of in the name of sex, so they decided to go celibate, just to like kind of really going celibate can kind of like restart your spirit or center you in a way, because it's kind of like getting clean off of drugs.
Yeah,
get it out your system so that you can refocus and redirect your life.
Yeah, you pretty much hit everything. That's abstinence, and celibacy.
Yeah. My friend actually celebrated her 1 year celibacy today.
Hey,
accomplishments.
Hey.
So what should females in particular be cautious about when having sex?
One, just health wise,
That's what my intention.
I think the biggest thing a lot of people don't do is they don't make sure people who they have sex with is tested.
Yeah,
I think that's another danger that comes with one night stands, is you don't know what that person has. And like they always say, whoever you having sex with everybody that they didn't have sex with. So if he didn't have sex with 5 people, you having sex with all 5 of those people. If she didn't have sex with 4 people, you having sex with all 4 of those people. Because
I'm not so sure about that. Yeah. I always think that's funny when people say, "How? No, you're not."
Yes, you are, because some leftover juice or something is still in there.
No,
and that's how bacteria and stuff builds up, especially if that person's not the best at their hygiene.
Unless they're doing it back to back to back.
Some people do.
Then that's why you don't be out here having sex recklessly. But most people aren't having back to back sex like that. So you're not having sex with everybody they had sex with, unless they do have an STD.
Yeah.
So that's why it is important to make sure that you either with someone who's never had sex, or that they come up with paperwork. Be like, all right, I've decided I want to have sex with you. Let's go get tested together so we can see this paperwork. And if they hesitant, then they ain't the one. Because it's like, if you have nothing to worry about, you're like, cool, bet, let's go do it. Because I think they still do free tests.
Yeah, they do.
So I ain't had to get one because marriage. But yeah, so just go get tested just to be confident. You like, I like you enough to go ahead and do this thing with you. Let's make sure we ain't putting each other in danger. But
I think that's one thing a lot of people don't have a conversation of is STDs.
Yeah.
People are just so ready for the moment, and in relationships they are trusting of that person and stuff. So I don't think because you trust the person, you feel like you don't need to have that conversation because you just assume. So I think it's important for both men and women to be cautious in that. It's not to assume that person is clean, because you never know.
I think assumptions.
Yeah, I still think it's important to have that conversation of STD. Have that pregnancy conversation. Like a lot of people don't like condoms. Like, hey, like, you sure? Like, I mean, just
so
in case.
I mean, it's the risk you gonna take. We gonna go half on this baby. You gonna get pregnant. You gonna be here for this, or let your girl know. And I think for women in particular, there's like parts about sex that a lot of people may not know, or a lot of women may not be aware of. If you don't do certain things, you can get a yeast infection or a urinary tract infection, also a UTI. My friend said, she said a bunch of her coworkers was like, they all had UTIs, and she was like, oh. But essentially, what? The reason you would get a UTI just because for women, you immediately have to go to the restroom and pee after you have sex, because sex it's near your bladder. Your bladder get hit. Right. So if you don't have go pee afterwards, then it can cause an infection in your bladder. And you can also get a yeast infection if you're having sex with someone who may not be the cleanest. Yeah. There's also bacteria infections. Same reason. And you also gotta make sure you're clean, because you don't want to have smelly sex.
Yeah.
Because a lot of movement,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of air,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of smells. So you have to make sure you clean yourself properly. You know, proper grooming. Yeah, proper grooming and cleaning. All that is important. What else?
That's really the biggest thing is be cautious of the hygiene of STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, and just be cautious of like how a person is during sex or leading up to the sex or when it comes to talking about sex. If that's like a really big discussion when you're talking to somebody, that means that can be the main thing that they want from you.
Yeah, they start off the bat talking about sex, or if they're always bringing up the conversation about sex, then you should be wary of that person because they're making their intentions known. They're not being playful or whatever the case may be. They literally just trying to get in your pants.
Yeah.
Women too.
Yeah, women too.
This is not just when men be out here be like trying to be innocent about their lives, and some women be trying to pull down their pants and they be like, "Wait a minute, ma'am,
don't want it."
Like, oh, that's the Lauryn Hill song. It's all about that thing.
Oh, really?
Some guys.
Oh, okay.
Some girls. That's all they want is that thing.
Both parties. We ain't gonna just.
There ain't no discrimination over here.
No.
Some women be out here wilding.
Y'all all gotta watch out. You just gotta really pay attention to a person, pay attention to the conversations. You know what I'm saying? And see, like, I mean, y'all don't be afraid to ask somebody, like, and if you have a certain kind of intention, if that's all that you want from a person, tell that person. Yeah. Don't let that person get emotionally attached to you. You know, you playing with their feelings and stuff like that. And you don't really want that. You gotta let that person know, like, hey, I'm not really looking for nothing right now. This is what I want out of you. I think the biggest thing when it comes to sex is communication. I think we fail to communicate when it comes to that intimate aspect.
Yeah. Basically, I think the moral of this episode is make sure you're informed. Make sure you find someone you trust. Make sure you're open and honest.
Yes. With
yourself and with them.
Yes.
Because don't let yourself be taken advantage of because you didn't want to be honest with yourself about your intentions. All right. So our last question of the episode will be essentially, when do you think parents, or we're gonna say in this case, older siblings, should talk about their younger peeps or children about sex?
I definitely think when kids hit that preteen age of 12, especially with girls because they're starting their periods. Definitely around 11 or 12, I think you should start having a conversation with your kids. It may be, a lot of parents think it's awkward or weird, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of parents try to like, don't want to talk to the kids at all about it, and kids are curious, so if you don't tell them, they're going to go somewhere else looking for the answers, and you don't want them to find it nowhere else. So I think around like 11, 12, 13, you should really start telling your kids, because that's when hormones is kicking in. That's when, they're hitting puberty. They're getting little boyfriends and girlfriends, and they're getting interested. So
I actually think you should probably start sooner.
Okay.
I think you should legit start talking to them when they start asking questions. Kids are curious, like you said. They're going to ask you first because you're a parent and they see you as the authority or the fountain of knowledge or whatever the case may be. They're going to ask you first. So I think you should start answering those, having that conversation when they ask. But definitely when they're younger, probably about 8 or 9 might be a good time. Because nowadays, them and all their little friends got cell phones. Unless you got super parental locks on their phone, they can't even Google nothing that ain't rated G. I think you should talk early. Because kids be going to school, talking to their little friends, who be seeing little things they shouldn't be seeing, eavesdropping. You got a story?
You seen that little boy on Instagram who saw his parents having sex?
Well, heard his parents
having sex.
That was the perfect time. If y'all haven't seen that, this little boy was imitating the sounds he heard from his parents' bedroom. And his mama tried to act like he was imagining it. That actually would have been a good time to have the sex talk with him, because he probably was like 6 or 7.
Maybe like 8 or 9.
Whatever the case may be, that would have been a good time. Instead of her recording him, She should have legit had the conversation and be like, okay, yes, you heard mommy and daddy having sex. We was getting it in.
Yeah.
So how about we just go ahead and talk about this?
Because little Johnny gonna be like, because obviously he already knew what that was.
He knew what the sounds was.
He got the information from somewhere. So we in middle school we kind of learn a little bit of the reproductive system and stuff like that. But I think it's important for parents to clarify and kind of give kids the understanding and the clarity about what that exactly is. A lot of times little kids get that little snippet and then that's it, and then they hear from the little friends about this and this and that, and so curiosity comes up.
So real talk, I remember when you started your period, I was in Delaware and we went and took a little walk and I was like, well, do you have any questions? It was like, what's the point of it? And I was like, to make babies. And she was like, okay. Because, like, just let them ask questions and give them answers. Because, like, we do learn about the reproductive system, but kids may not put 2 and 2 together that reproductive, your organs plus sex makes babies. So, help the babies.
Little kids be out here 4 and 5 doing stuff.
I mean, by nature, we are sexual beings.
Yeah.
We're born with all our sexual impulses and everything. Like, people know little boys and little girls that be having their hands in their pants because the parts is there. I mean, the parts work.
Yeah.
So it's not too early to have these conversations with them. Of course, you're not going to be graphic and detailed. But you should tell your kids the correct names for all their parts.
Yes.
Don't be saying your little cookie, your little wee-wee. Say they put penis and vagina.
Yes.
Because basically a lot of people recommend you do that anyway, so that when kids come in contact with a predator or something, they can actually clearly say what happened to them.
Yes.
They can use the proper words. They could be like, that person tried to touch my vagina and I didn't feel comfortable with that. But when you use cute little names for it, it doesn't, the act itself, they don't know that the act of someone touching it is as wrong as it really truly is.
That's why I think another thing to talk to your kids young about sex, when they're young, teach them about sex, because there are people out there who do wrong things to kids. So you have to also prepare them, you know, to be able to say no or fight that person off or yell for help or something like that if somebody tries to inappropriately touch them, especially with women. Young lady or daughter, you know, these are your breasts, you know, this is your vagina, this is your butt. You cannot let anybody touch you until you're older, and you know what I'm saying?
Without your permission.
Yeah,
without your permission, don't let anyone do anything you don't want them to do to you, because this is your body, it's your control, you have say so. So yeah, it's good to talk to your kids about this, because we all know people be out here getting molested and don't say nothing.
Don't say nothing.
And we have to teach our kids early on
to say something.
What their body is, that it's their body, they have control over it, and that people aren't allowed to do anything to them, and they need to speak up if somebody violates them.
There's this acronym for parts. I can't remember the words for it. I'm gonna have to try to find it again. But I remember in school it was like, stop, don't touch me there. This is my private square. RAPE. Get your hands away from me. That's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good one to teach your kids. A little song. You know, kids like music, something they can dance to. That's how they learn. Through visuals, through songs and stuff. So
I've never heard that one.
I don't think I said the end part right, but it's something like that.
It was good enough. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Teach your kids a song.
Yes.
Anything else?
I think a lot of times being surrounded by the atmosphere as a virgin can be kind of tempting because you get kind of curious, you know. So I think it's very important that if you are a virgin, that you have to protect yourself from a lot of sexual talk. Because if you're really trying to save yourself for marriage, or you're trying to be celibate, you have to protect your eyes and your ears for a lot of, you know, sex and stuff like that. So you have to be very careful, especially if you want to, you know, stay abstinent or remain celibate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important.
I agree highly. And obviously stay away from people that try to be like, oh, you a virgin? Oh, I can change that. No. Well, it's like, get thee behind me, Satan.
Yes.
But yeah, I think just remember that you're gonna have sexual urges.
Mhm.
Talking to the young folks,
Yes.
the virgins and the babies. If any teenagers watch this, you're gonna have sexual urges. It is natural. It's nothing to be afraid of. Just recognize it and move on.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that your body's like betraying you or that your body's telling you have to have sex. It's natural. And especially after you hit puberty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically, our bodies are trying to make us get pregnant all the time.
Mhm.
That's what the sexual arousal is. Your body's like, all right, let's make babies.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not ready for babies. But your body's like, we made to make babies, though.
Mhm.
Just ignore it.
And I mean, that horniness and that arousal, it'll go away eventually. For that moment, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do something about this. But eventually, it'll go away. It'll fade away.
Yeah. You can either take it into your own hands,
Mhm.
literally, or you can just go do something else with your time.
Yeah.
If you find yourself being aroused, you'll be like, I'm going to go for a walk real quick.
Mhm.
Or I'm going to go do something. Go do something else active to
Mhm.
distract your body if you don't want to get physical with yourself. But fine. Yeah. If you're trying to stay pure and true,
Mm-hmm.
find something else to do. Some people say reading the Bible always kills your sexual
Oh, wow.
arousal. Never kill your sexual arousal like reading the Bible. Amen.
Yeah, my last thing I want to just say is, like, when it comes to sex, just like be aware of like what you want, what you require when it comes to sex, what you are looking for, and ask yourself, why do you want to have sex, or why do you feel you need to have sex? I think a lot of times we don't talk to ourselves and ask ourselves things when it comes to sex. So before you get ready to have sex or you want to have sex, ask yourself, like, why do I want to have sex? What is sex going to benefit me in this moment? Or what is it doing for me? Why this particular person? Ask yourself some questions and other questions before engaging in sex. Don't make sex just strictly about pleasure. It comes with a lot of pleasure, but try to make it more about, like, you know,
The holistic aspect.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
If sex is just one part of a relationship,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be the part of your relationship that overshadows everything else.
Yeah.
It is a good part, but it's not the main part. It's not
Mhm.
the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see cute little boys and girls, and you're
Mhm.
like, she cute, he cute, and
Mhm.
you're going to get aroused by that because you're a person and physical qualities do arouse us, but that doesn't mean that, oh, I have to have sex with that person.
Right.
It just means your body's just agreeing with you. Your
Yeah.
mind say he cute, and your body like, yeah, girl, he cute. And that's fine.
Uh-huh.
Keep it
Mhm.
moving. Keep it pushing.
Yes. Yes.
Any last words?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything.
Yeah. If you watched this and you enjoyed it or you have other questions, you can email us at heysissypodcast@gmail.com
Mm-hmm.
or you can leave your comments on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe.
On Instagram.
Yeah. Follow us.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube and all other podcast platforms. Thank you for watching the
All
Hey
right.
Sissy Podcast.
Peace.
Bye.